out under seal. All aboard the Lolita Express. It's a Daily Mail article. Flight logs reveal the many trips Bill Clinton and Alan Dershowitz took on pedophile Jeffrey Epstein's private jet with anonymous women. Alleged victim, redacted, said she was recruited as a sex slave when she was 15 and that she was forced to have sex with both Prince Andrew and Harvard law profession Alan Dershowitz. The latter, she says, molested her mid-flight on the private jet. Both the redacted of York and Dershowitz have fiercely denied their involvement in the ring. So they named Prince Andrew up here, but then they redacted the Duke of York for sake of the British monarchy. So he's the Duke of York, but they named him up here in the Prince Andrew. And we now know Prince Andrew went down for all of this, and Britain is investigating him and just arrested him. So this lady was 15 and she says she had sex with Alan Dershowitz and Prince Andrew on Epstein's flight. Alan Dershowitz, the high-profile lawyer, has been distracting himself from Epstein ever since a young woman named Redacted filed a lawsuit claiming she was recruited to work as a sex slave for Epstein when she was just 15, naming both Dershowitz and Prince Andrew as two of her molesters. That's Alan Dershowitz. This lady is the girl that says she was 15 with Dershowitz and Prince Andrew. And that's the young lady that just killed herself by suicide. And she's the one that blew this whole thing up. Chris Tucker, President William Clinton, Kevin Spacey. Oh no. Chris Tucker, you on the list, baby. I gotta do some research on you, dog. Yeah, he was on a plane with Kevin Spacey. Went down for sexual misconduct. He got convicted. He like boys. On Thursday, Dershowitz said that while blank redacted claimed she had sex with him at Epstein's Caribbean island and his New Mexico ranch, he had only ever been there briefly with his wife and daughter. He claims that the third accusation, that he had sex with redacted on the private plane, is false, and that flight manifests will prove he was never aboard this plane with her. I have never seen her, I have never met her, and he insisted. She is categorically lying and making the whole thing up. This is Pinocchio's nose growing longer and longer. He insists that his relationship with Epstein had only been entirely academic and that he had only ever met with him in the presence of dignitaries and professionals. He told the American lawyer that reports that the two were chummy were a total bum rap. While Epstein did donate to Dershowitz University in 2003, flight records show that their familiarity goes all the way back to December 1997, when the lawyer first rode on his jet from Palm Beach, Florida, to New Jersey's Teterboro Airport with Epstein's gal pal Maxwell, and a slew of women identified without their last names on the flight log. Their names were simply jotted down as blank and one other anonymous female. There's more logs. J.E. met when confronted with the flight information by Gawker. Dershowitz admitted that he had known Epstein since 1997 and rode on the banker's jet to attend Limited Brand CEO Les Wexner's 60th birthday. And the ride up to Wexner's birthday wasn't just a one-off thing. The log showed Dershowitz continued to fly on Epstein's plane, including an October 1998 flight from Massachusetts to New Jersey and a 1999 trip from New Jersey to Martha's Vineyard. A 2005 jaunt from Massachusetts to Montreal shows Dershowitz traveled with Epstein, a woman named Tatiana, and others. Despite telling Gawker that he has very clear, unequivocal recollection of never being on a plane with young women, he has a hard time explaining who the single-named females are who scatter the flight logs. He said he doesn't know who redacted were, and that Tatiana may have been a 20-something woman who was friends with Epstein's girlfriend, but that he never flew with her. And he also finds it hard to explain why his wife doesn't appear to join him on the flights, who he publicly said accompanies him nearly everywhere in statements issued in the wake of the lawsuit. She travels with me all over. On occasion, she's working or travels separately. I travel with her almost all the time. Not all the time, he told Gawker. I have a very clear, unequivocal recollection that I was never on a plane with any young woman, period. It should be noted, though, that flight records are kept by pilots, mostly to keep time, and could contain inaccuracies as to passengers. No allegations have been leveled at Clinton. His name has been mentioned in the recent scandal because he vacationed on Epstein's private island during the years when the sex crimes were thought to have occurred. Redacted maintains that she never saw Clinton do any wrong or even appear to know about the underage girls. He appears to have flown on Epstein's flight with several curious women, including a young actress who used to work in softcore porn. Clinton booked Epstein's jet for a 2002 anti-poverty and anti-AIDS tour of Africa with friends Chris Tucker, billionaire Ron Burkle, friend Gayle King, and actor Kevin Spacey. They tried to redact Gayle King's name. They put Gayle redacted and actor Kevin Spacey. So it was Gayle King, Kevin Spacey, Chris Tucker, Ron Burkle, and Clinton. Joining them for 5 days of the week-long tour were Maxwell, redacted, and a woman identified as redacted. Redacted is also one of some 160 women whose contact information he kept in a handful of cities across the world, as all listed as masseurs. Though prosecutors believe some of the women on the list may have been underage prostitutes, Redacted was 23 at the time and has not been accused of any crimes. Her LinkedIn page shows an expertise in Swedish massage. Redacted has since achieved some success as an actress with a role on HBO's Enlightened, but previously worked as a lingerie model in a film produced by a softcore porn company. So there was the young lady that was the softcore porn actress. She worked on HBO's Enlightened. She refused to comment when asked by Gawker what she did on the Africa trip. I am really not interested in being slandered in the media for having known this person a long time ago. Some of the things being said are not things I have information on, Redacted said. At Davos on Thursday, Prince Andrew made his first public appearance and refused to discuss the claims. The palace previously issued vehement denial on Prince Andrew's behalf. It is emphatically denied that the Redacted of York, Duke of York, had any form of sexual contact or relationship with Redacted. A spokesperson said, "The allegations made are false and without any foundation." Redacted called the denial false and hurtful to me. Following her most recent filings, a Buckingham Palace spokesman added this week, "We have nothing to say in addition to our earlier comments on the issue." Redacted claims she had sex with the prince, a former friend of Epstein, in New York, London, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, while she was a sex slave. Buckingham Palace has denied all allegations. She claimed Prince Andrew correctly guessed she was just 17 when he met her, and how she was instructed to give him anything he wanted. So he guessed that she was 17 when she met him, and they must have chuckled. His police bodyguards left her alone with him. For the first time they had sex, she said. Epstein made me have sex with Prince Andrew several times, she said. I had sex with him 3 times, including one orgy. I knew he was a member of the British royal family. Royal is redacted. But I just called him Andy. After they had sex, she was paid $15,000, she said. Prince Andrew's decision to pursue legal action. He has the right to sue his accuser. Will depend on whether the palace is willing to subject him to depositions about his private life. Dershowitz has also filed a motion in federal court to enter in a lawsuit brought against the U.S. government by his accuser and other women who say Epstein sexually abused them. The court has yet to decide whether to grant his motion. The 2 lawyers representing Jane Doe number 3, former federal judge Paul Castle and Florida plaintiff's attorney Redacted, have now filed counter-defamation charges against Dershowitz. The first lawyer's name is being redacted, but his first name is Brad something. Dershowitz sued these 2 guys for naming his name in a lawsuit, and then they filed a lawsuit back. Dershowitz challenged his accuser to file formal rape charges against him. If she were to file a false rape charge, she would be committing a crime. She has not done so. It comes a week after Prince Andrew's ex-wife Sarah Redacted slammed reports that she had sex with an underage girl as salacious lies and defended him as a humongously good. She defended him as a humongously good man. So they said Prince Andrew's ex-wife Sarah Redacted loved to have sex with underage girls as well. So that's that article. Dear God. This is another document in the Ghislaine case. So Jane Doe is a lady that her story was uncovered in 2007. This is Jane Doe number 3 is the girl that had sex with the prince. 3 years worked for Epstein. She gave massages. She said Ghislaine Maxwell, daughter of Robert, acted as his madam. So this is somebody that first mentioned, this is 2015. They call in Ghislaine a madam. Yeah. So it is the most extraordinary story of sex, power, influence, and abuse of young girls, and it already sent Jeffrey Epstein, one of the richest men in America, to jail. So this story is from 2015. And today, this sordid saga erupted once again with Prince Andrew sensationally forced to deny having any sexual contact with the women whose claims have dogged him for years. Last week, the prince was accused of abusing Jane Doe number 3, an anonymous name used in American court papers, at an orgy where she was being used as a sex slave. Jane Doe number 3 is Redacted, whose story was first uncovered in 2007 by the Mail on Sunday, following a painstaking investigation by our reporter Sharon Churcher, who tracked her to Australia. The story Miss Redacted told was extraordinary. How she spent 3 years as an underage sex slave working for billionaire Epstein, a friend of the prince, and paid to give erotic massages to the tycoon and his associates. She also claimed that Ghislaine Maxwell, daughter of disgraced tycoon Robert Maxwell, acted as Epstein's madam. The allegations by Miss Redacted are threatening the reputation of the Queen's second son. The palace hasn't emphatically denied that the prince had any relationships with underage girls. Now, thanks to the court documents Miss Redacted lodged in Florida last week, the Mail on Sunday can publish the most complete story yet of how this young woman was exploited by Epstein's shuttered world of seedy sex and influence. We spoke to Miss Redacted twice. The last time, just 12 months ago. While fragments of her testimony to us were reproduced last week, only now can we present her comprehensive account with previously unpublished material. Epstein instructed Jane Doe that she was to give the prince whatever he demanded, and required Jane Doe number 3 to report back to him on the details of the sexual abuse. Maxwell facilitated Prince Andrew's acts of sexual abuse by acting as a madam for Epstein. That's the young lady. She was working as a changing room assistant in the spa at Donald Trump's palatial Florida country club Mar-a-Lago, where her father was a maintenance manager. Soon after her 15th birthday, in 1998, she says she met Ghislaine at the club. Hold on, bro. So this young lady was working as a changing room assistant at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago in 98. In 97, she was working there. She was 14. In 98, the next year, 98, she met Ghislaine. The socialite was a friend of Epstein's, and the pair were known in New York and London for their hedonistic lifestyle, which concerned redacted courtiers after Andrew began to associate with them. Andrew was photographed surrounded by topless women during one holiday with them in Thailand, and was pictured sweatily cavorting with Ghislaine at a Halloween sadomasochist themed party in Manhattan, reinforcing his public image as a party-loving playboy. So this is the young lady. She's pictured age 15 right here. So this is when they're saying, oh, you look older than your age. She was 15 in this picture at her mom's home in Palm Beach, Florida. Year was 1998. Miss Redacted says she had no idea of the risk she was running when she left at an invitation from Ghislaine to work for Epstein. I was wearing my sexy redacted Mara-Lago uniform. So I was wearing my sexy attendant's Mara-Lago uniform, a redacted miniskirt, and a skin-tight redacted polo top. So we could pull up the outfits that the Mar-a-Lago outfits in 19. Getting back to this, Miss Redacted said she had no idea of the risk, right? So I was wearing my sexy redacted Mar-a-Lago uniform, a redacted miniskirt, and a skin-tight redacted polo top. I'm just assuming she's saying a white miniskirt and a white polo top.
Get cold, bro. What are you doing? No. Don't breathe it.
Mom. Take a few walks.
Miss Redacted says she had no idea the risk she was running when she left at the invitation from Ghislaine to work for Epstein. I was wearing my sexy redacted Mar-a-Lago outfit at a redacted miniskirt and a skin-tight redacted polo top. I'm just assuming she's describing the colors. In studying an anatomy book, when I was approached by this striking woman in her mid-40s with a very proper British accent. Ghislaine, Miss Redacted told the Mail on Sunday. She noticed what I was reading, and I told her I wanted to become a masseuse and she said she worked. She noticed what I was reading, and I told her that I wanted to become a masseuse, and she said she worked for a very wealthy gentleman called Jeffrey Epstein, who was looking for a traveling masseuse, and I'd get training and be paid large amounts of money.
Oof. Turn it down, bro.
Miss Redacted was told she could start work immediately and was driven to Epstein's sugar pink mansion on the Palm Beach waterfront.
Get out, bro.
Miss Redacted was told she could start work immediately and was driven to Epstein's sugar pink mansion on the Palm Beach waterfront. The stairway was decorated with photos of naked young girls, and Miss Redacted eventually would learn that she too was being photographed by hidden cameras. But I was too nervous to take it in, she says. Another lady led me into Jeffrey's bedroom. It had a redacted sized bed. What? King? And a spiral staircase that led down to a pool. The lady walked me straight through into the massage room. It was part of a suite, a shower room, a steam room, and another closet-sized room where I later learned the sex toys were kept. Jeffrey was lying face down on the table, completely naked. He asked me a whole bunch of questions, and within the first hour, he knew my life story. I told him I'd been a runaway, and I'd lived on the street, and I'd taken ecstasy tablets, and I wasn't a virgin. And he said, "So you're a bad girl in a good girl's body?" The lady told me to follow her instructions. She had me put oil on my hands, and then she grabbed one of his feet and started to massage it. And she told me to take his other foot. Then she took off her shirt and started rubbing her breasts across Jeffrey and told me to take off my clothes. He had sex with me, and the woman fondled me. I was thinking, this is wrong. This is not legitimate massage. But they liked me, the lady said. She's got a knack for it, and I thought these are important people. I must be doing something right. The lady gave me $200 and said I was to come back the next day. Miss Redacted was nauseated by the sexual acts that she was instructed to perform, but she was charmed by Epstein's rags to riches life story, which he intimated. She was charmed by Epstein's rags to riches life story, which he intimated was an example to her. Jeffrey said he wanted to be my mentor, says Miss Redacted. I felt he and Ghislaine really care for me. We do family things like watch Sex in the City and eat popcorn. But it was a sick family. I was a pedophile's top girl, being trained up for a British prince. He trained me to do whatever a man wanted. I was worried, but I would do anything to keep Jeffrey happy and keep my place as his number one girl. It was in 2001 that Miss Redacted was told she would be flying to London. And after they landed, they drove straight to Ghislaine's house. Ghislaine showed me upstairs to a small bedroom. That night, I gave Jeffrey an erotic massage. I was jet lagged. I went to sleep. This is her again in '97, right before she met Jeffrey and Ghislaine. She was already working at Trump's Mar-a-Lago. Miss Redacted with her husband Robert on their wedding day in 2002. They were in Thailand. So Jeffrey paid for this wedding, or helped. The next morning, Ghislaine came into my room. She was chirpy and really giddy. She jumped on the bed and said, get up, sleepyhead. You've got a big day. You got to go shopping. You need a dress because you're going to dance with the prince tonight. She said I needed to be smiley and bubbly and very happy to be around him and give him a lot of energy to him because he was the queen's son. Miss Redacted said they went shopping for a €5,000 Burberry bag and other designer dresses, perfume and makeup. We got back to Ghislaine's house around 4 p.m. and I ran straight upstairs to have a shower, she said. When I went downstairs, Ghislaine and Jeffrey were in the lounge. No one seemed too fussed. Even though they were expecting the Redacted of York any minute, Duke of York. There was a knock at the door. There was a car outside with 2 men, who I think were security. Ghislaine led Andrew in and introduced me, and we kissed each other on the cheek, as I had been told is the English custom. Ghislaine served tea. She knew Fergie, who I gather was the prince's ex-wife, and they talked very fondly about their daughters. Then Ghislaine played one of the favorite guessing games. She asked Andrew how old he thought I was, and he guessed 17. And they all kind of laughed about it. And Ghislaine made a joke that I was getting too old for Jeffrey. She said, he'll have to trade her in soon. It was widely known in Jeffrey's set that he liked young girls. Miss Redacted says she sat between Jeffrey and Andrew at dinner, claiming Andrew was making eye contact with me at every chance and concentrating on my plunging V-neck top. He didn't ask me anything about myself. I just sat there with a smile frozen on my lips. Ghislaine had whispered, the prince seems really interested in you. We went on to tramp. We were led into VIP area and Andrew got me a cocktail from the bar, and then he asked me to dance. He was the most hideous dancer I had ever seen. He was grabbing my hips and he was pouring with perspiration, and he had this cheesy smile. He was grabbing my hips and he was pouring with perspiration, and he had this cheesy smile. I was used to being used for sex by men, but it was not behavior that I was used to in public. And not from a prince who had daughters. I felt everyone was watching us. By her account, Miss Redacted first tryst with the then 41-year-old prince allegedly took place later that night at Ghislaine Maxwell's London townhouse. All of us went upstairs and I asked Jeffrey to snap a picture of me with the prince. I wanted something to show my mom. Ghislaine and Jeffrey left us after that, she said. In the morning, Ghislaine said, you did well. He had fun. We flew straight back to the States. I suspected that the only reason we went to London was that I was a gift to Andrew. Miss Redacted makes the extraordinary claim that she was paid about $15,000 by the 58-year-old Epstein as a reward for sleeping with the prince and other sexual services for Epstein. There is no suggestion that the prince knew Epstein paid her. I was totally under Jeffrey's spell. I was his personal sex slave. Ghislaine joked about how young I was when they introduced me to Andrew. Despite the palace's It was made clear to me that my job was to do whatever pleased him, adding that she wouldn't have dared object to any demand. To any demand. The prince didn't give me money with his own hands, she added. Jeffrey always took care of me, paying me after I entertained his friends. Andrew was at the time a special trade. Be quiet! Andrew at the time was a special trade envoy, but after Epstein was persecuted, he resigned. He subsequently broke off his friendship with the financier and had been working to rebuild his reputation with his charitable trust. His focus is on trying to grow British prosperity, including training young people to become economically active through schemes such as apprentices and digital enterprise award. Speaking later, Miss Redacted says she remains mortified by her meeting with Prince Andrew. To be honest, I was sort of excited to meet the prince. That was the lifestyle to which Jeffrey had accustomed me to, the blonde, now 30, said. Miss Redacted said she met Andrew for a second time around Easter 2001 at Epstein's Manhattan mansion. I was in Florida when I was called up and I was told I was needed in New York, she recalls. When I got to the mansion, I was told, get ready. You are meeting someone in the library. Andrew was sitting there in a big leather armchair behind which there was a desk covered with photos of girls. And young women, including one of me. I was almost nude in the picture. I don't think Andrew could have missed seeing it when he walked in. Ghislaine had just given him a present, some kind of big blow-up toy that was his spitting image puppet. He was smiling ear to ear. He looked like a kid whose parents were taking him to Disney World. A beautiful girl called Redacted, who worked for Jeffrey, was sitting on Andrew's knee. Ghislaine guided me over to Andrew, and I think he recognized me, though I don't know if he remembered my name. We kissed each other on the cheek, and Ghislaine placed me on his other knee. In an interview with the Mail on Sunday, Joanna has confirmed the encounter, saying she was 21 at the time when had been hired by Ghislaine to answer phones and serve drinks in return for $20 an hour. So Joanna was there. She was 21. Ghislaine subsequently asked her to give Epstein foot massages. She elaborated, and the tycoon tried to persuade her to touch his nipples. He couldn't believe I refused. No one else had ever done that, she said. After being introduced to Andrew in the library, she sat on his lap. Miss Redacted says it was made clear to her that she was expected to have sex with Andrew. Although again, the palace completely refutes any suggestion of impropriety. Ghislaine said, "You should take him upstairs for a massage," she says, burying her face in her hands. I took him upstairs to the dungeon. He undressed and lay face down on the table. I started with his feet, then his calves, the way Jeffrey liked it. She met Andrew one final time on Epstein's Caribbean island. This time there was no extra payment for the session. I wasn't on the road. I just got my usual hour rate, which was at that time $200. She met Andrew one final time on Epstein's Caribbean island, where she says she entertained him with an orgy. I flew there with Jeffrey and Ghislaine, she says, and 7 Russian girls who didn't speak a word of English turned up with a modeling agent. Jeffrey was so excited, he said, "We're going to do a big photo shoot with you and the girls." The agent took the pictures. They were very provocative. We were topless, and he had us in sexual positions. Then we're told to assemble in a big cabana. When I walked in, Andrew and Jeffrey were seated in chairs. Jeffrey directed us with hand gestures. Jeffrey and the prince were laughing. The next day, Andrew was gone. I remember thinking I would never have a normal life again. But as sick as it sounds, Jeffrey was my redacted. I was totally in his power. I never thought of trying to escape. So the redacted part must have been pimp. For her 19th birthday in August 2002, Epstein purchased a plane ticket to Thailand for her, where he enrolled her in massage course. Asked if she planned to escape, she blushed. Despite the degradation she endured, she insisted that she would never have lied to her mentor. I really did think that I could give him better massages if I studied in Thailand, she said. Shortly after arriving there, however, she met an Australian martial arts expert, whom we have agreed to identify only by his first name, Robert. They fell in love, and just 10 days later, they married. Robert taught me how to live again, says Miss Redacted. For 11 years, they lived in virtual seclusion in a rural suburb of Sydney. But a year ago, the couple moved back to America with their 3 young children. I still dream about Jeffrey. I still wake up at night in tears, said Miss Redacted, who is working on a memoir. Her memory of Prince Andrew plays heavily on her mind. A lot of powerful men were part of Jeffrey's scene, but I specifically remember Andrew, she says. That's Ghislaine. They denied everything. So that's that, man. Sorry we went down such a rabbit hole, but his lawyer is OJ's lawyer, and that's all that was on OJ. So we have one more to do for this one. So just to recap, that was everything on O.J. Simpson. You can get drawn into a rabbit hole with this, but I wanted to cut it off there. We found out O.J. is just being brought up because of legal tactics, what his lawyers did, who his lawyers were when he was trying to beat his murder case. And that's all it is. Somebody's emailing Epstein about crimes about Bitcoin and this and that. And can they get off later? And is it worth trying Bitcoin? This is when Bitcoin was getting started. So as you know, today Bitcoin is here, but Epstein was involved in all that. They wanted advice from him. So they Epstein's lawyer is also OJ's lawyer, so that's why he's in these files so much, because his lawyer was on flights with Epstein for years, since 97, 98, 99, 2000, 2001. And there's a young lady that says she had sex with the lawyer and Epstein. So, and Prince Andrew as well. So all three. So this young lady was the top woman for Epstein and Ghislaine. So she's pretty much the one that unraveled everything. So, she said at age 14 she was a runaway, and she would run away from time to time, but her father worked. I showed you the article. Her father worked at Mara-Lago as the head maintenance, groundskeeping, room service, whatever. He managed everything. And at age 14, she worked at Mara-Lago, and she was like a shower attendant, like where the women or the men would throw their towels after playing tennis, and they take their showers and get cleaned up. It's a clubhouse, so they take their showers and change, and these people would just walk around and clean up the towels and make sure everything's clean. So this was her at 14 around. I'm sure they put her in the women's locker room, but she's 14 and working at Mara-Lago, and they make them wear outfits that she described in her report. But she said she was studying anatomy, wanting to get into massage, and Ghislaine approached her at Mara-Lago club one day. And after that same day, she invited her to Jeffrey's house. That same day, they drove from Mar-a-Lago and went directly to Jeffrey's pink house, his pink mansion they call it. And that was the first day she had sex with Jeffrey, massaged him, learned how to massage, and learned about kind of the life that she was getting into. She's saying from that day and the next day, she was groomed to be his top earner, his top worker, his top sex worker. And she said from that day she was being groomed to eventually meet the Prince of the Duke of York, Prince Andrew, in Britain. He is Ghislaine's longtime friend from childhood. So she's just in training now, learning how to do everything to please Andrew. So when Donald Trump says he's not in these files, he's exonerated, he has nothing to do with Jeffrey, this story, which I showed you, points to the fact that in 97, in 98, and 96, this girl was already working there at Mar-a-Lago on probably a student work thing, or just, in the summertime, her father works there as the manager. He just keeps his eye on his little girl. Maybe she's in trouble or acting out. She mentioned that Ghislaine and Jeffrey talked to her, and in a few minutes they find out that she's a wild girl. She's just, she loves to run away. She's a bad girl trapped in a good girl's body, and they prey on that. She said that out of her own mouth. So her father probably was keeping an eye on her at Mar-a-Lago, and all the meanwhile there's pedophiles and women pedophiles that are best friends to Trump that walk around like royalty, and they're intermingling with young girls that work for him. So that's why he doesn't want to be attached to anything. And this is only in 96. Like, just imagine how long it's been going on. So Trump doesn't want to be associated as his place being a breeding hub for pedophile men of all rich nationalities that come there looking for sweet treats. And he has Ghislaine and Epstein inside of the walls to help them facilitate getting their fix. So next we're going to type in another person from the community, just to clear our people, you know. Whoa, nothing. Let's go, girl. And that's what I'm talking about. It's as simple as that. 2 seconds to find out. So she is not in these files. I have a list of names, so we won't run out at all. Don King is not in there, which is surprising. Being in the background of boxing and models, like I'm looking at everybody. People that were known to have rumored lifestyles that, you know, from our favorite TV shows. You know, nothing. This is a list that I was given by some of the viewers and people that I know. They just want to know if any of these people are mentioned or have association. They might seem off and weird, but Jay-Z, Pusha T, Gayle King, Chris Tucker, these people are mentioned already, looking at other people's stuff. So it doesn't hurt just to check and clear the names of anyone in our community of status. Nothing. So that's our episode for today. I have another one coming tomorrow, and we will search what we need to search. Stay locked in. On the next episode, we will be looking at Ice-T, TD Jakes, Oprah, RuPaul, and Tyra Banks. Stay locked in. These are the Black News Epstein File reports.